I can't hear anything.
Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded.
Through the chair, sorry. It looks like there's still some audio issues. If you could just hold on 1 minute, please.
I can hear you, Don, but it's very faint.
Got the microphone as close as it can get. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist.
Yim, were you having issues hearing what Don had just said, or was it any louder?
It's better.
It sounds fine to me.
Very faint to me.
Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5 minutes allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, for permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and for consent to sever property to create new lots. Receiving a copy of the decision of the committee. Anyone in attendance today who wants a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address, because the committee and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notification and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with our decision, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the committee. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure today. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. when making your submissions. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they've finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there minutes of the last meeting to be confirmed?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members. Yes, the March 8th, 2023 meeting A and meeting B minutes are both ready for adoption.
We have a minute for confirmation of the minutes of this meeting. Carl, we have a seconder. Nimrod, all in favor? Minutes are confirmed. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for the items in the morning time slot? No declarations. Are there any deferral requests?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no applications requesting deferral this morning.
Are there any files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there are no files to be closed.
Number 1, 480 Adelaide Street West. The purpose of this application is to construct a new 2-story building to contain a restaurant with a rooftop patio. Materials before the committee include materials submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, reports from urban forestry and from community planning, opposition from 490 Adelaide Street West, and further two correspondences, 490 Adelaide Street. Mr. Brown.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm happy to tell you, as of late last night, you probably should have had a letter from 490 Adelaide indicating that they've withdrawn all objections, so we've resolved their concerns. I'm also wanting to start out by saying thank you to staff who really did a great job in working to provide responses on our application, Simon in planning and the urban designers. It resulted in the landscape plan that's before you. Jacob from the committee has done a great job, and Nicole and Sabrina. So I just think that ought to be said at the outset because they helped us. They helped us get through the process. This is an
Mr. Brown, is Mr. Artenozzi on this call?
I don't think so because they signed off. They sent a letter of support in last night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And he and his clients and our client and myself met into the late hours and figured out a resolution. So they're pleased with the landscape plans we've shown, the site plan we've shown. I can take you through the slides that we presented. It's fairly straightforward. They're taking down a 4-story building and putting up a 2-story restaurant use with a rooftop patio. Staff asked us to do detailed landscape plans, which we did. That was sort of asked for late in the day, but in any event, our landscape architects did a great job in getting city staff what they wanted. and you have a report that has conditions that we support. The variances are as a result of the fact that the lot is 13 meters wide. You couldn't comply with any of those setback requirements. Also, as a result of the fact that in this area, in the slides, if you go to our next ones, indicate that this built form, albeit at only 2 stories and many are higher, is completely in keeping with the way in which the King West area and Adelaide in particular has developed. If you go to the next slide, you can see that I've provided you visual representations of the area.
So, Mr. Brown, there's no changes to the variances as a result of
Nothing.
the settlement?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. It's all the exact same.
Okay, so why don't we take this to the panel? I don't explanation. Some members feel they need it. You have any questions, panel, or? Yes, Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adam, very simply, in the added material we received last evening, there's a landscape plan and then there's a revised landscape plan. And I'm trying to figure out, and planning refers to the improvements that have been made in landscaping. Can you explain the difference between those 2 plans and which one, if the planning is referring to?
The ones that they should refer to as the HKLA landscape architect plans. Yeah, those ones. They wanted us to do landscaping of the street as well as on top of the patio. So we provided that. So it's the latest one we should refer to, because the first landscape plans, I wouldn't call them landscape plans in particular. These ones are actually detailed landscape plans from HKLA Landscape Architects.
So they're both from HKA. So is it at different levels? Is that what I'm not?
We
We
added more
got this
improvements
material
on-
really late, so I apologize for not being
No,
up to date on it.
it happened late. We got the request about a week ago. So there was a second set of HKLA plans because they wanted more detail on the streetscape.
Oh, okay, so it's
So it's whatever
basically the
late
same,
indicated one.
it's the
It's
same
with
proposal.
more
though.
detail. Correct.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Odd, go ahead, Nimrod.
I think that the variances before us are minor in nature. I think the development is appropriate, and I would move approval of the variances subject to urban forestry condition number 3 and subject to community planning conditions. And I'm not sure if we need to specify which landscape plan we're referring to in those conditions.
Seconder? Is that here? All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Mr. Chairman, I cannot hear you. I can hear everybody very well, except the chairman.
I'm practically swallowing the microphone. Can you hear me, Yim? Yim, can you hear me?
Yes, better, much better. Yeah, you have to speak really close to the mic, I think.
Well, I can't get any closer.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
thank
Yeah,
you.
otherwise you'll eat it, right? Thank you.
All right, number 2, 58 Castle Frank Crescent. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2 1/2 story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition with a 2nd-story balcony and a partial rear 3rd-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, staff reports from Heritage Planning and Urban Forestry, and one form letter in support from 47 Castle Frank Crescent. Mr. McCatchy?
Hi,
Good morning, sir. Could we have your name and your address for the record, please?
my name is Robert McCackey. I'm the architect on this and applicant. The address is 18 Hook Avenue, Toronto.
Thank you. I don't think we need a presentation. I have one question with respect to the variance number 3, the size of the balcony. Is it 5 times the area as permitted?
That's correct, yeah. We did submit an extra page just highlighting some of the two other balconies on this street that were also approved previously as precedent that were great. They were greater than ours. And then in our drawings, the last page is a 3D perspective that shows what we're proposing. So with these two, so I can't read the numbers on there. Let me pull it up myself. On the So that is for 65 Castle Frank across the street, and then 2 houses to the east. That one has a second floor platform of 50 square meters, and then a third floor platform of 15 square meters. And then at 18 Castle Frank, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses west of us. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. That one's just just showing that the GFA is greater. So we have one precedent for second floor platform across the street that was larger. And then we've included a rendering on the last page of our drawings that shows what this addition would look like. And we're limiting the shape of our balcony to be closer to the side wall of the neighbor to protect the views of our neighbor to the east of us. That would look more into their backyard. So we have just the balcony is just kind of all located on the west side only of the second floor. So I think the last page of this PDF is maybe helpful to see. Yeah, this page. And so on the second floor, there's this kind of a bay window or this framed thing that sticks out a bit, and then the platform, the balcony is just limited to be in front of that area only.
What about overlook?
So maybe if we go back to the second floor plan or the site plan, what we can see is there's a house, like all of these houses are kind of angled a bit. And so the balcony that we're proposing is on the west side. So the house to the left of us is, yeah, like we're kind of close to their side wall. We spoke to that neighbor. We reached out to everyone in the neighborhood. They didn't have any major concerns. We showed them a rendering of what we can see from the balcony, and they have mostly trees that obscure the view or just the side of their house. And then because our balcony is so far over to the west side, the neighbor to the east, where we could see into their backyard, we've pulled the balcony edge back so that the rest of that addition is blocking the view to the view down into the backyard. It might on the second floor plan would show the outline of that more clearly.
Excuse me, could you, I'm now confused.
Oh,
You keep referring to the balcony being closer to the west property line. It's actually closer to the east property line, is it not? If you look at the survey, the garage actually is on the west side, correct? and the balcony extends further to the east. So to the chairman's question, there is, I would argue, a privacy concern to the east. And I think that the balcony needs to be screened on the east side. The other issue is the very one you mentioned, which is precedent. The bylaws require that balconies be really limited in size, and your justification is, well, the committee's approved bigger balconies. So this would just add further proof that we should have bigger balconies, which seems to be contrary to where the bylaw is going. Can you explain why the balcony is as large as it is? I realize you've got a fair size rear yard and it's a fair size building, but the balcony is pretty big, and I just like to get your take on why it's that size.
Quite simply, it's just the roof of that addition, and it was just something to walk out onto. I don't think it's going to be used that much, but it was just, I think we wanted to finish the top of it, like from the bedrooms. There's one bedroom view looking back. We didn't want to just see a flat roof. We wanted to cover that in a nice decking instead, and then maybe have like a big potted plant out there. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Okay, any further questions, panel? Okay, any comments, or do we? Yes, Yim?
We in committee now. I can make a couple of comments. Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Are we in committee now?
Yes.
Okay. I have a comment to make. Yeah. I sort of yeah, that's the size of the balcony sort of stands out to me too. But when I listen to the explanation and also the site plan, these sites are staggering, and it's actually I do not, and also the applicant said that they have talked to the neighbors, and it's such a way that is staggered that you really have to turn to stand on the edge and turn back to look at any of the backyards. I do, in that sense, I do not think there's a privacy concern. But if some members think that we should put some privacy screen on the west side, I do not object to that. But I think I can support this application because besides that, I think the variance is minor in nature.
Further comments? Yes, Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unless I've got the wrong information, which is possible, if we look at the drawings, I think it's the east side that needs screening, not the west side.
Yeah, because
The west
yeah,
side,
maybe
as
you're
mentioned,
right.
the houses are staggered, and the
Yeah.
balcony is set back from the property on the west, which is, I don't have the number, but I don't see a privacy concern to the west. I see the privacy concern to the east. And
Okay.
so
Yeah, you
I would
probably are right
argue that,
because I think what is missing on their plan is the north side. We can see it on the survey only. Yeah, you sort of you got thrown around. Okay. You think it's on the east side, the privacy screen should be on the east side. Okay.
Yes, here.
Just a couple of quick comments as well. I think that's the first thing that stood out was the size of the balcony and the screening issue. As the agent mentioned, there are precedents, but precedents doesn't necessarily mean that we now move along with that particular size of balcony. In this particular case, I think given the size of the properties and also the very unusual shapes of the lot, I think this balcony would be fine, its size. And I think as Carl has mentioned, I think it's the east side balcony that may have an issue with privacy. So I'd be quite happy to move a motion to approve this application with the condition that there's some screening be provided on the east side of that balcony.
There's also a heritage condition.
That's right.
And the forestry condition,
Forestry number 2.
heritage.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Yes, Yim, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 3. (284) Kenilworth Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a new rear first-story raised deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have 2 form letters in support. Jay Smith.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith, 2814 Hollington Crescent, agent for the application.
Thank you. I think this seems pretty straightforward. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before I take it into committee?
The only thing would be the reduced side yard setback, Mr. Chair, where we went from 0.87 to 0.60, and that was in order to allow the stairs that go to the ground level to be width that meets the OBC requirement. The old set of stairs were 2 feet wide, so we needed to widen the deck in order to allow those stairs to be 3 feet. And that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Yes, Nimrod?
I didn't have any questions. I'm ready to put forward a motion unless someone else has a question.
Any questions? Anybody else? Yes, Carl.
It's not a question so much as a suggestion. Nimrod, I don't know whether your motion is going to have conditions, but I would argue that we need to have screening on the north edge of the deck. And I had a question for the applicant is whether the deck abuts another deck on the south side.
The deck, there is a gap between the deck on the south side. It is not directly attached, but the neighbor does have a deck as well. Given the topography of the land, we're almost 9.5 feet from ground floor to the backyard. So a lot of these homes do have decks, and I would have no objection to screening on the north side.
So then my question was, do you need it on the south side as well, or is there already a screen there for your neighbor?
The neighbor does have a screen.
Okay, good enough. Thanks. Sorry, Nimrod.
No, that's great. So I'd like to put forward a motion to approve the variances. I believe they are minor in nature, and I note that there are letters of support from both adjacent neighbors. And add a condition that there be privacy opaque screening on the north side of that deck.
Carl, you second that motion?
Yes.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Number 4, 352 Jones Avenue. The purpose of the application is to convert the existing 2-story detached dwelling from 1 unit into 4 units, 1 primary unit on the ground floor and 3 secondary units, 1 within the basement and 1 on each of the second and third levels, by constructing a 3rd-story addition, a rear basement walkout, and rear second and 3rd-story balconies. Also to construct a new 2-story ancillary building, a garden suite located in the rear yard. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, and support from someone whose address is unknown, Mr. Brander.
Adam, you've been
Morning.
unmuted.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Adam Brander, and my address is 49 Bolton Avenue in Toronto. I'm the agent, the architect for the proposal at 352 Jones Avenue.
Okay, so there is someone registered to speak, not necessarily in opposition, but I think you better give us a brief presentation, sir.
Certainly. Just to update first, if we could, the public notice originally indicated 6 variances and updated zoning notices on the file. If I could transcribe what that means for the public notice. Variance 1 should read 1 parking required, 0 proposed. Variance 2 proposed is reduced to 33.1% or 51.3 meters squared for rear yard soft landscaping. Variance 3 for the garden suite coverage is removed. And variance 4 for the permitted height of the rear wall, it should read 8.5 meters is permitted, where 9.12 is proposed. I guess just first in the support material package are context and understanding to support the proposed. Generally, and even unpacking the nature of some of the specific variances in an effort to be brief and concise for time today. I'm happy to answer any questions as these relate. I would say one variance that, as it reads off the page, that we'd like to aim to come closer to an as-of-right condition is for the rear yard soft landscaping. If we could bring up support material sheet 4, please. Just a couple pages down. Yeah, the outlined area in blue there is a pre-existing neighbor vehicular easement that wraps around the property, but technically is on the subject property. And because it's in favor of the neighbor, there are no permissions to alter or provide soft landscaping in this space. Our zoning examiner actually went back to the source on this item and consulted with the planners who wrote this recent bylaw. And those planners said there's actually nothing explicitly written into the bylaw at this point just yet for these instances. And there's a recognition and an acknowledgement that it's an issue to be resolved. They felt it was something that could be explained at committee for the time being. If we do a quick comparison, if we were to be able to exclude the right-of-way area from the rear yard, the proposed percentage of soft landscaping would be 44.6%, where 50 is required. Or if we were able to landscape that area, it would be up at 58.9%. So an as-of-right condition in that qualification. And additionally, I guess the proposed soft landscaping in the rear is actually an improvement over the existing condition. And so with that kind of back and forth with planning and zoning, planning had no further concerns with that. These are my initial submissions in support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Jim.
Oh, I have a quick question. You're removing variance number 3. How do you achieve that?
In the revised drawing package through you,
By
Mr. Chair.
reducing the footprint of the
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that's correct. The footprint of the garden suite has been reduced to comply.
So it's smaller in terms of the in terms of also area, right? Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin Weld.
Caitlin, you've been unmuted. Caitlin Weld, you've been unmuted.
Is she there? Miss Weld, can you hear us? Can you call her, John?
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, could I ask Mr. Brander a question?
Certainly.
Mr. Brander, if I'm correct on your, in your proposal, you're providing privacy screen, but only on the south side of the balconies and the deck. Is there some reason why you're not providing it on the north side?
Mr. Brander, are you there?
I think I've been unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the privacy screening was anticipated on the south side with its 4-foot setback from the property line. Though at the north side, the deck only extends about half the width of the building, and then is also separated by that right of way from the adjacent property. So it was thought that it could be a bit more open on that side as well.
And has the person to the south, have you had consultations with them, talked to them, and do they have a concern with privacy?
They have not voiced a concern with privacy, and I believe the owners have spoke with them in some capacity. It was just in anticipation of a condition that would be neighborly.
Do we have Miss Weld on?
Mr. Brander, could I ask you one other question? If anyone looks into this application, assuming it's approved, the very first question that I think jumps forward is, why can't there be some change made to the between the laneway and the garden suite, or at the, oh, I've got the wrong direction, behind the garden suite and beside the garden suite. And thank you very much for that drawing that you put up earlier that shows that it's a right of way in favor of the neighbor. I think it would be helpful to file your site plan drawing with that area indicated as a right of way. Would you have a problem with that? Because I otherwise it questions why you can't put landscaping in, and you've very clearly thought about that, and you provided a reasonable answer.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. It's contiguous with the right of way that's labeled on the north side of the property, and the survey that's on file as well reiterates that. Actually, I think we do have right of way on the back there as well.
I just noticed it. Yes, sorry, my mistake. Okay, thanks very much.
Miss Weld? We don't have her? Okay. Is she there? Okay, well, we've got 42 other applications, so we've got to proceed. Our panel, have any further questions? Any comments, or do we have a, yes, Yim?
I have no more comments, and I think that it's good that they have deleted variance 3. And I actually get quite impressed that putting a garden suite with so few variants concerning the garden suite. And I think it's a good approach, a good project, and I'm in support of the amended agenda. I think they already proposed the private screen. I do not need to put it as condition. So that's my motion. Yeah.
Okay, it'll be as amended, Yim?
Yes, I mentioned that. Yeah, it's amended. Yeah.
So, planning condition, is that screening?
I think they have proposed on the plans. That's privacy screening already. Yeah.
They do, they
Can
have,
we go-
they have it on one side, yes.
Okay. Carl, did you second in it, Carl?
Yes, I'm pleased to.
Okay, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5, 649 Bathurst Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2 1/2 story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear third floor addition with a balcony. There will be 2 dwelling units on this lot, 1 primary unit as well as 1 secondary unit within the basement. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and correspondence and concern or interest from 651 Bathurst Street. Yo Wu,
Tony, you've been unmuted.
Mr. Yu, are you there?
Tony, you've been unmuted.
Why don't we move on to the next item? While you try to get them. Okay, we're going to hold this matter and we're moving on to number 6, which is 118 Withrow Avenue. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear second-story extension. With this item, we have material submitted by the applicant. Ryan Kwan.
Hello,
Ryan, you've
committee.
been
Can you?
unmuted.
Good morning, committee. My name is Ryan Kwan of 29 Torrens Avenue, agent for 118 Withrow Avenue.
All right, I don't think this is very straightforward. I don't think we need a presentation. Panel, do you have any questions? Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kwan, a very quick question. I had some difficulty with your drawings. The purpose is a rear second story extension. Is it a 2-story extension or is it just on the second floor? It's just a point of clarification.
It's a second floor addition over a existing 1-story addition.
Okay, that's good. Thanks very much.
Okay, do we have, yes, Nimrod?
Yeah, I'd like to move a motion. There's only one variance and I believe it is minor in nature. I would move approval with no conditions.
Seconder is here, all in favor? Im, are you in favor? Yes, okay. The application's approved, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Do we have Mr. Yu? Don't
Hi,
have him, Don?
excuse me. I apologize. Could you hear me right now?
Tony, can you speak closer to the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Could you hear me right now? It's kind of like Microsoft.
We need you to
problem.
speak up, sir.
Yeah, could you hear me? I'm sorry. The microphone seems doesn't very clear.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Oh,
Please,
I sincerely apologize. Good morning, Mr. Chair and the committee. My name is Aoyu, and I'm the agent. My address is 2347 Kennedy Road. I'm here today on behalf of the owner of 649 Bathurst Avenue.
okay, can we have a very brief presentation as we have some opposition?
Sure, for sure. Please let me briefly introduce this application. The application was intended to do an interior alteration and propose a new flat roof on the existing roof. The reason that two variants was triggered regarding the building length and the FSI is because there is an existing two-story addition that hasn't been legalized yet. If you look at the survey, could you pull out the survey, please? Yeah, you can find that about 2.5 meters metal siding addition on the rear, which does not match the city record. The owner bought this property about 2 decades ago, and this addition was already existing structure back then. During the last 2 decades, the addition has not imposed any any dangers like drainage or shadowing issue. Therefore, I'm respectfully asking for a relief to the variance of the building length and the FSI in order to legalize this rear addition. I'm happy to answer any question. Thank you.
So there's actually no construction at this
Well,
time?
only like propose a flat roof on the existing roof, like a dormer, flat roof dormer on the existing roof. So there's no further violation or construction except the dormer on the 3rd floor.
Okay. All right, Zahir, you have a question?
Just a quick question. Is the balcony on the 3rd floor, is it an existing one, or is this one supposed to be built as well? Because there's no screening as far as I can see on either side.
Well, this balcony is the new one, and there's only 1 meter depth, and this balcony hasn't triggered any variance. But the owner would be happy to add the privacy screen on the side.
And that would be north and south sides?
On the north side.
And south side?
Yeah, both sides is fine.
Both sides. Thank you.
Carl, did you have a question?
I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Chairman, you asked the applicant if there was any new construction and he said no, but in fact, the balcony is new. And so that is new construction. The other issue I think is I'm not sure that the screening on the edges is necessary based on the location of the adjacent properties, but it's not going to hurt. The larger issue to me would be to tie the balcony to the drawing on, let me see 1 second, it's drawing A19, which is the 3rd floor plan. And the reason for that is because the balcony is contiguous with a roof. And so it would be very easy to basically use almost the entire roof as a balcony. And I presume we would like the balcony to be as shown on that plan. So I think that might reasonably be a condition.
Okay. All right, Wing Chan.
Unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted.
Great. I'm here with Wing Chan. We are at 651 Bathurst. Thank you for having us today.
What's your name, please, for the record?
Yeah,
Wing Chan, and my name is Olivia Chan.
she's my daughter.
Okay, that's fine. Could you tell us what your concerns are?
Yep. So as stated in our letter, our main concern is the privacy of the additional balcony being built, being very close to the bedroom window, and asking if we could have additional privacy screens on the north side, so that we can protect privacy into the bedroom window. And additionally, because the construction is directly above our entranceway where we have young children going in and out often, we just wanted to see if there any conditions can be put in to protect that space during construction. And thirdly, just because we are attached to the house, we're just concerned about general protection of the roof and structures as the owners do the construction.
Well, we can help you out with a privacy screening. We've already addressed that issue.
Right.
And it'll be part of any motion, but we can't address the construction issues. It's not part of our mandate. That you have to discuss that with the neighbor. I don't know if there's going to be any more construction. Is the balcony there?
No, it's not there right now.
Oh, okay. Well, then you'll have to address construction issues with the neighbor.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the consideration for the privacy issue and the offer from the neighbor to put in privacy screens.
All right, thank you. Louisa Liu?
Louisa Liu is
she's downstairs busy with my grandson, so she's not going to join the meeting today. She's my wife.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yu, I don't think we need to hear from you again. The only issue was the privacy screening, which we've already discussed. So panel, do we have any comments, any further questions, any comments, or do we have a motion? Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unless my colleagues have any other concerns, I think this is a reasonable proposal. Variances are reasonable. The solution is reasonable. I'd like to move approval subject to, as Zahir had mentioned, screening on both edges of the third floor balcony. And I'd like to propose another condition that the extent of the third floor balcony is to be as shown on the third floor. I'm trying to get the drawing for you. Just one second. On drawing number A19, the third floor plan.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Zahir, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 7, 382 Spadina Road. Purpose of the application is to construct a new 3-story semi-detached fourplex. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry. Mr. Christian Chan.
Christian, you've been unmuted.
Address is Suite 138 at 157 Adelaide Street West, Toronto, Ontario.
I'm sorry, sir, we didn't get your name. It didn't come through.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. My name is Christian Chan. I'm the planner for the applicant 382 Spadina Road Limited.
Thank you. All right, so this seems reasonably straightforward. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just simply to say that the proposal is basically to twin the built form of the adjoining semi-detached home at 382 and to create a fourplex development. There are two forestry conditions. I note standard conditions number 2 and 3 that are recommended to be imposed by the committee for this application.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Comments, or do we have a motion? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, could the applicant clarify that there's been consultation with the attached semi?
We've consulted with city planning as well as the attached semi. So there isn't any concerns noted in the file record on the AIC. And those are, and also just to note that we did have a brief conversation with urban forestry just to make sure that the conditions are going to be satisfied.
And the other question I have, it appears to me, if you look at your front elevation drawing, the stairway is really dominant. Do you have any perspective drawings that would indicate the stair in your presentation drawings? Are they fairly accurate? Because the stair recedes from view because it's up 3 stories from the ground, right?
Sorry, sir, are you speaking with regards to the basement stairs going to the basement unit?
No, the stair to the roof.
The stairs to the roof, yes. If you can go to page 10 of the planning rationale, there is a front elevation view. So that shows a perspective of the proposed roof enclosure that accesses the roof deck. And it is receded back from the point of which where the sloped roof goes up, matching the adjoining building, and then it's stepped back in order to reduce the appearance of that massing onto the streetscape. So that's not immediately apparent when that is seen on the front elevation.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to clarify. The other question is on your balconies. It appears to me that there should be screening on the north and the south edges of the balconies. Do you have any difficulties with that idea?
No, sir. I do note that the balconies, the rear balconies for unit 100 on the first floor, unit 200 on the second floor does pose screening. However, the unit 300 balcony does not have it, and it shouldn't be an issue for my client should the committee impose that condition to construct privacy screening for the south side.
So not to confuse us further, but if we try to differentiate in a condition, it'll get confusing. So the condition could say that there'd be screening on all of the balconies and I believe it should be on the north and the south side. You're proposing it only on the north side. Can you explain why?
Initially, sir, I was proposing just on the south side, but should it be to the committee's satisfaction to have privacy screening on both the north and south sides, that shouldn't be an issue.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Have any further questions or comments, or do we have a motion? Kim?
I've looked through this application, and I think that the design is such that the massing they step back more and more to the first floor, and I do not think the effect of that stair coming up to the roof will be much from the street side, because it's quite far back. And I think that the massing and the height and will be quite consistent in the area. So with the forestry condition 2 and 3, and also the suggestion by Kyle with screening for all the balconies, both north and south edges, I will move for approval.
Carl, you second that motion?
Yes.
All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members.
Number 8, 549 Clinton Street. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 2nd-story side addition that will be cantilevered on the north side of the dwelling, a complete 3rd-story addition with a rear balcony, and to convert the existing mudroom into a covered porch. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, and six form letters in support. Justin Sherry.
Justin Sherry, 84 4th Line North, Oro Medante, L4M 3 and 6.
Okay. Seems to be relatively straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into committee?
Yeah, I would just like to point out that the primary variances here are with regards to existing conditions. The one we are seeking the variance for in particular is number 2, and that's with regards to GFA.
Yes. And what is the existing floor space index?
Off the top of my head, I cannot recall. If you give me one moment, I can let you know. The current gross floor area index is 78.35%.
Okay.
So we are currently over as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think, is there an amendment being made to variance number 6? I think there was some letter to that effect.
Yeah.
Through the chair, if the applicant can please go through the requested minor variances as per the revised zoning review that was received, just to clarify if any of the variances have changed from the original public hearing notice.
Yes, so number 6 in particular is the only one that changed, and that's with regards to the soft landscaping. And in the existing condition right now provides 0% landscaping. And we are currently adding an additional landscape area. It seems like this one is the old one, but we are adding some soft landscaping to the front. And if you give me one moment, I can let you know how much that is. So we're going to add another additional 29.82%, whereas we have 0% currently.
Are there any other changes to variances?
No, that is it.
Okay. All right. Panel, do you have any further questions or comments? Yes, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the applicant have any concerns with screening the balcony on the north and the south sides?
There will actually be some screening on the south side as it's semi-detached. In particular, there's many houses on that street that do have that same screening effect. On the north side, I'm sure the client would be happy to have a screen on that north side, so we can add that in. Yep.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Do we have a motion? That's Nimrod.
Yeah, I think that what's being proposed is appropriate and that the variances are minor as amended. I would move approval of the variance as amended, subject to urban forestry condition number 1, and that Carl, it's the rear balcony, have opaque privacy.
The balcony on the north side.
So is it just on the north side screening or south as well?
The applicant indicated that there's been discussions with the neighbor, and there is a series of, I gather, similar balconies all the way down the street. And so I would argue that perhaps that's not an issue. I frankly thought that it should go on both sides. I still think both sides make sense.
All right, so why don't we do that condition on the north and south side of the balconies?
We're okay with that condition. Thank you.
Second that. Carl? All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Number 9, 162 Rusholme Road. With this, the purpose of this application is to alter the existing 1.5-story detached ancillary building containing a garden suite by constructing a second-story addition. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. Miguel Magana.
Miguel, you've been unmuted, and if you'd like to use video, you can turn your camera on.
Line 2. Hello?
Hello.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear me before.
Yeah, we
my name is-
couldn't actually. We can hear you now.
Okay, great, thank you. My name is Miguel Magana, and I'm representing the owner at 162 Rusholme Road. And the purpose of our application is to extend the existing second story of existing garden suite. Our intent, the variances basically are all.
So, sir, for the record, can we have your address?
Yes, our company address is at 2198 Gerrard Street East, and that's in Toronto.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Yes, we have somebody else on, so in interest, so perhaps you could just give us a brief presentation.
Sure, definitely. The purpose of our application is to extend the existing second story of a garden suite at the back of the property. The variances are as a result of all existing conditions. Our intent is to only extend the second story to align with the existing ground floor. And we will not be encroaching, excuse me, any closer than the existing bathroom on the ground floor. So if you look at sheet A2.2, it would be the south elevation. As you can see for this drawing, we are not proposing to be any closer than the minimum required distance from the main dwelling. We actually are over the required 7.5 meters with an 8.6 distance. We are not getting any closer to the ground floor. And the side yard setback are as a result of us trying to align with the existing walls on the second floor.
So, Mr. McGanna, I was a little confused by this application because you attached a previous decision which approved a garage at the back, but now your application says an existing garden suite.
Yes, so the owners, 2 owners ago on this property had applied to add the second story addition to the garage. The owners, after that, created a suite without proper legalization. So our application is also to legalize this garden suite as a legal residential suite.
So, all right, so, Paul, I think we should change the purpose to read, to permit the existing 1.5-story detached ancillary building
Correct.
as a garden suite and to construct a second-story addition.
Correct.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can. I just would like to check the system to see if an order to comply has actually been issued for this property. Perhaps the applicant can weigh in. Have you actually been issued an order to comply violation?
We have not received one. And there's also Jim Sod on the line, who was the original applicant. He was having some traveling issues, so I was only here as a standby. I'm not sure if the moderator could also patch him in.
Through you,
Hello.
Mr. Chair, we can see if there's anybody else on the line to speak regarding.
Jim, you've been unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, speak closer to the mic, please.
My apologies. My name is Jim Sod of Paradigm Architecture and Design. And I was supposed to be the agent on behalf of the owner.
All right, perhaps
162 Rusholme.
we're having trouble. You're fading in and out. If you could speak close to the microphone, I think we'll hear you better.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay. My name is Jim Sod. I'm supposed to be the agent on behalf of the owner for 162 Rusholme. And my apologies, I am overseas and was just having, I don't know why I wasn't called first, but Miguel stepped in for me, which he gave a good presentation generally, but I did want to point out a few things. So yes, this was an existing garage at some point, and prior to my client purchasing this property, she is the second owner to inherit what was a garage that was 1.5 stories in height. The previous owners, as you can see from the previous notice of decision, had legalized a second story to the garage. And at some point prior to my client purchasing the property, and even the owner prior to her, the owners that got the committee decision to extend the height of the garage had converted it into a dwelling without going through the proper means of obtaining permits and going through committee of adjustments, as is obvious. What my client is attempting to do in this case is obviously legalize that condition, as she herself is living inside, wants to live inside that dwelling unit, and to make it livable and safe. There is a bedroom that was constructed at the second level that is far too small and only accessible via a stair ladder, or a ladder stair, excuse me, which is quite dangerous, as you can imagine, and it does not conform to code, building code. So this proposal is to put in a legally conforming stair that accesses a bedroom. It also eliminates what was a walkout terrace on top of the non-conforming, let's call it garden suite or dwelling in this case. And in doing so, we're not worsening any of the existing non-conforming conditions other than penetrating through the angular plane on the north side yard setback in order to just keep the wall in alignment with the wall down at grade on the ground floor level. Other than that, as Miguel had pointed out, we are no closer to the main house with regards to the separation distance, and therefore we're hoping that the additional height will give her the necessary headroom for both the stair and the bedroom to be very practically usable, but we are beyond the 7.5 meter separation distance that would have ordinarily permitted us to extend the height to what we are showing right now. So that shows up as a variance as well. The separation distance, because of the fact that the pre-existing ground floor has a little extension out towards the main house. As for the landscape open space, that's also a pre-existing condition. So technically, really the only variance that we're asking for that's new here, well, actually, I'm just trying to think. We have I apologize, I don't have the variances in front of me. Perhaps we could put those up on the screen. Actually, if we could stop at this on this sheet, that's perfect. That demonstrates the extension that we're asking to the existing second story of the I guess garage is what it's formerly been the last incarnation on record for this structure. So again, you can see by extending out the second floor to make it usable and allow us to insert a proper OBC compliant stair on the interior to access a bedroom, we're still very far off from the main dwelling unit. In excess of the 7.5 meters, we're at 8.1 meters away. So, you know, I think the client is looking to do the right thing by legalizing this dwelling as a garden suite. She is also interested in not taking up, she lives alone, so there's no reason for her to occupy the main house or portions of it, which have been divided into 2 and 3 bedroom units, which she rents out, which according to current municipal policies is the direction that we're trying to achieve in terms of increasing density. So she has taken over this modestly sized dwelling unit for her own use, and she's just trying to make it as livable as possible. To the best of my knowledge, she's had conversations with the neighbor to the north. There was no comment at the time. And she is separated by the neighbors to the south by a by the width of a driveway. So there really shouldn't be any issues there either. There are some mature trees as well between this, the existing garage or dwelling, if you will, and the main house that we're not really causing any additional shading issues for the neighbor on the north either. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, panel? Yes, Yim?
Yes, I just want to clarify, if we can look at your site plan, I just want to know the landscaping areas that you indicated in between the house, there's a little patch of, you say soft landscaping or existing landscaping. And also, I just want to know what is the area between the garden suite and the lot line, where the little shed is. What is that material? Is it?
Those are brick pavers, and they're all pre-existing. So in actuality, for this application, we're not touching anything on the ground floor or site level.
Understand. That's not my question. My question is, on your site plan, where is the soft landscaping? Which part?
There is a small patch between the main house and the proposed garden suite, as well as around the perimeter of the garden suite. It's all pre-existing.
So the west, everything else is asphalt paving or permeable pavers, or what material? Everything else is hard landscaping.
There is the driveway, everything leading up to the parking space is hardscaping, asphalt paving, if you will. The entire rear yard is brick pavers with a limestone screening between the pavers, which allows decent amount of water infiltration. And then the area between the garden suite itself and the main house, there is, if I'm not mistaken, it is all sodded. Yes, as shown on the site plan.
But that's what my question. It doesn't show on the site plan that is sorted, because there's a little patch says existing landscaping or landscape. The west is unknown. I only mentioned this because it doesn't seem to indicate very clearly what the soft landscaping is, and you have a big deficiency in your design.
Can I add to that, Yim? Yim, can I add to that? The applicant indicated that the space between the garden suite and the main house is soft landscaping, but that doesn't appear to be the case from the site plan. If you look at the site plan that's on the screen, there's a flagstone walkway, and the walkway continues as an S shape around the garden suite. So that's not soft landscaping.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. I have no idea where the lot. So it's only say landscaping. Does not existing landscape. Does not mean there is soft landscaping. And behind it, there's no indication of what it is, and then nothing. And they have a deficiency in the landscaping. I have some difficulty on that variant.
My apologies, I can clarify that. So that is where you see the dotted hatching. So let me clarify in that you are correct about the S-shaped.
Sir, could you speak into the mic? We're having some trouble hearing you.
My apologies. So yes, you're correct about the S-shaped walkway being a flagstone walkway that basically goes around the existing structure. There is a dotted line that essentially indicates a deck. It is a raised deck because the ground floor is actually quite a number of feet above grade. And the remainder of that is simply soil and wood chips. But there are some stones there, so we did not go as far as to indicate anything in terms of additional landscaping. The fact of the matter is that all of it is existing and we're not touching any of it right at this moment. If it is committee's wish that we turn or ensure that some of it is soft landscaping, frankly, it's just kind of a mishmash of wood chips, tree roots, stones, and the deck that you see dashed there at where you see the dimension that says 1.8 meters on the south side property line. That's to the deck. That's what that's dimensioning there. So it's a deck that's above the ground.
Yeah, that's exactly what my question is, because in your application you suggested you have at least 22% of the area between the house and the garden suite is soft landscaping. I do not see it, and I do not see it being indicated. I do not know where your 22% comes from, which is 50 square meter of soft landscaping. Where is it?
It's essentially everything you see in the dotted hatch, okay, not the striped hatch, but the dotted hatch that doesn't fall underneath the dashed line of the deck. So it's between the walkway, the flagstone walkway. If you can just zoom in on it a little bit. I'm sorry, I should have asked for that before, but if you can zoom in on this, okay, you can actually see the hatching of the pavers that go to the back. I was mistaken. It's, I know it's a paved driveway. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little confused myself. The main thing is the dots that you see are all either soil or sod or wood chips, and they extend from the flagstone walkway right underneath the deck. So the 22% that we counted was from the outline of the deck going back towards the garden suite. And obviously we did not count the flagstone walkway.
So let's move on to Darren.
For delivery options, press.
Sir Connick. He's not there. Okay. All right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify the earlier question regarding the description of the property, there is indeed no violation or order to comply that has been issued for this site. Therefore, in terms of amending a description, we could say to permit the garden suite, but it would not be to legalize and maintain. Instead, we can amend the description to state to permit the garden suite.
Yeah. And to construct a second-story addition.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, panel, do you have any further questions, comments, or do we? Yes, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share Yim's concern about the landscaping, even though it's an existing, I should say, before mentioning that, particularly because you're overseas, the architect's explanation of everything has been really helpful, and I appreciate that. I don't think that this is a reasonable landscape provision in this day and age. I realize it's old and I realize it's existing, but it's the one aspect of this application that I'm unable to support, which is variance number 1, I believe. I'd be happier if we had a higher percentage closer to what the bylaw minimum of 50% is. But as it presently stands, I'm unable to support variance number 1.
Can I
have
offer to? Oh, sorry.
no,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Are we in committee? You already, Mr. Chairman?
I think.
You want
what
to
Carl-
open up again?
Just
I
a
have a
minute.
comment further to this. Only to the only argument I receive is because it's existing condition. But the existing condition does not have a second-story expansion. They actually proposing new work, and also on the site plan, it's not committed to any soft landscaping. I do not see a label say soft landscaping. I do not see the area of landscaping, and it's only through his explanation. But if you look at the drawings that be submitted, that's not a commitment even as existing condition. So under that, I cannot support variance number, what's that? Number one. I cannot support that. I can support the rest of the application, but not that. Yeah.
Okay, so, sir, can you, I think you wanted to respond to Carl's comment about soft landscaping and do you have a proposal with respect to increasing the amount of soft landscaping?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. I fully appreciate what the committee members have brought to light, and I'm sure that my client would be more than willing, if it's acceptable, to rely on access to the garden suite coming down the paved driveway and exchanging all of the flagstone leading up to the main house, between the main house and the garden suite, as additional soft landscaping. That would not be an issue.
So could you give us, are you able to give us a percentage and a square meter calculation?
Yes. Actually, I'm going to ask McGill to do that, who's standing by and communicating with me. He has access to the drawings. If he can give us a quick rundown on that. Obviously, we would be excluding the right-of-way from that calculation.
Miguel, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. 1 second, committee. I'm opening up our drawings and calculating the new area. I apologize for this.
Mr. Chairman, while the applicant's doing the calculations, I wonder if could I make a suggestion? If I understood the architect, the area between the rear property line and the garden suite is brick pavers. And if a portion of that was soft landscaping.
I don't think all of it's brick pavers, Carl. I think some of it's brick pavers.
Oh, the reason what I'm looking at is the flagstone walkway actually makes some sense, because as the architect indicated, the lady that owns the property is proposing to live in the garden suite, and that provides her an entrance from the street, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm not suggesting that he necessarily take that walkway out. If there was a way in which the percentage of soft landscaping could be increased substantially, I frankly don't care how he does it, just as long as the percentage is higher. So I just wanted to clarify that I think the walkway actually serves a purpose, and just eliminating it might not be the right idea. And I don't think we need the solution today. We just need the percentage and the square meters today.
Hello, committee?
Yes.
So if we were to remove the walkway and exclude just the right-of-way that's shared with the neighbors, we could increase our soft landscaping to 45.5 square meters.
And you could increase it to 45?
Already 50.
Yeah, you're already at 50. Do you mean you increase it by 45 square meters?
Oh, I didn't include a portion of that. It would be to 58. So we would only really be able to increase it by 8 square meters.
And what would, and the percentage would only be about 24%?
Correct. And that's by excluding everything that's not required for the driveway, for the right-of-ways, and just provide a small access from the driveway to the door. But as the other committee members said, we can look at how we can also increase it behind the garden suite. Just based with our existing constraints of the driveway, the parking space, and the right-of-ways on both sides, we can't increase it more than that.
Right, how much can you?
We can look at adding some more in the back.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But this only deals, this 50% only deals with the area between the garden suite and the house.
Correct. And we just have the constraints of existing right-of-ways with both neighbors, and just the doorway and the existing structure.
So how much soft landscaping can you get behind the garden suite?
I think we could increase it to 75 square meters.
Which would be, what percentage would that be? Well, actually, that wouldn't count in that calculation. It'd only give you another 17 square meters.
And I guess to clarify, this would not, the portion at the behind the garden suite is not calculated in the bylaw. So I guess that would be the exception made.
But it would help.
Chairman,
It would help the panel make a decision because
that can be like a condition. Yeah.
More soft landscaping. So you can get 17, am I correct in saying you can get 17 square meters behind the garden suite?
Yes.
Okay, so 58% between, not 58%, 58 square meters, which would be 24% between the garden suite and the house, and another 17 square meters. Is that what you can do?
I think we can do that.
You can't do anything more.
I think just with the existing, there's existing storage sheds, bike parking, et cetera, that is required as well. So, we're trying to meet as much as we can with our constraints that we currently have.
Okay. Panel, yes, Yim?
Mr. Chairman, I suggest that because it's not part of the variance, the space that behind the garden suite, we can put it as a condition saying that space to be soft landscaping, which is constitute to 17 square meters.
Yes, we could do that. Okay, so let us go into committee. Any further questions or comments? Or do we have a motion? I think what Yim indicated is the best we can do at this point, or we've been told it's the best. 58 square meters at 24% between the buildings, and 17 square meters behind the garden suite as a condition.
Don't go in. Don't go in. There's 8. There's 8. Just park over there.
Jim, did you want to make any comment?
Yeah, with the amendment and also the condition of additional soft landscaping, I'm ready to support this because I think the garden suite is more is acceptable and is quite modest increase. So I move for approval with the amended variance number 1 from 22% to 24, which is 58 square meter. And given the conditions that the area behind the garden suite to be soft landscaping of area of 17 square meter.
Have a seconder. Carl, second the motion?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 10. '62 Northridge Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with an integral garage, a front porch, a rear ground floor deck and basement walkout, and a rear second-story balcony. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Community Planning and Urban Forestry. We have support from 63 Northridge, opposition from two properties on Derwin Road. Mr. Lang.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So can we have your name and your address for the record, sir?
David Lang, I'm the agent for the applicant.
And your address? Mr. Lang?
Did you get that?
No, we didn't get your address, sir.
Sorry, 2100 Bloor Street West.
Okay, that's better. We can hear you better now. Okay, I don't think that we need, there's no opposition, so I don't think we need any presentation. Do you have anything to say to the panel before we go into committee?
No, I had submitted a cover letter. Hopefully it clarifies any questions the panel members might have.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions, comments, Zahir?
No questions. I was going to just propose a motion.
Go ahead.
This is a reasonable application, and I think there are no real issues with it. There is a planning condition attached, and it's to do with privacy screening, which I hope the agent is aware of. And there's a forestry, I believe it's forestry number 1 condition. So with the inclusion of those 2 conditions, I'd like to move a motion to approve.
Thank you. Carl, you second that motion? All in favor? Have your approval? Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, 42 Karis Avenue. Purpose of this application to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition and a 3rd-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and 5 form letters in support. Mr. Hatch.
Jonathan Hatch, you've been unmuted.
42 Karis Avenue, 6 Bishop Street, Toronto, Ontario.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you, sir. Could you speak closer to the mic, please?
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Perfect. Jonathan Hatch for 42 Karis Avenue.
Okay. And this looks reasonably straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say before we take it into committee?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a reasonable application. It's in a neighborhood that's under a large amount of development. It's below the average FSIs of what is being proposed in the area at 0.8. Three-story houses are common in this area. We're keeping the original front facade, staying on the existing footprint. We believe the character is maintained. We have a number of letters of support, including the adjacent neighbors, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions, panel? Yes, here.
Just wondering if you could speak to the, pardon me, I believe it's variance number 4. Can you just explain?
Oh, actually, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. I was given permission by the client to actually remove this variance, and we are happy to comply with the landscaping area for the rear yard. Originally, it was just to maintain the existing concrete areas. It was installed prior to my client's purchasing of the home, but they have big plans to make it a greener space, and it's part of the renovation, so we'd be happy to comply.
Thank you.
Okay. Nimrod?
Yeah, so given that, I think that the variances are minor as they have been amended with variance 4 being removed. I would move approval of the amended application with no conditions.
So here, you second that?
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 12, 34 Cloverdale Road. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing 2 1/2 story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition with a rear ground floor deck and a 3rd-story dormer extension. Also, the rear 1 parking space will be maintained. We have material submitted by the applicant in support of this application. Jacob Yabali.
Yes, Chair Member, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my name is Jacob, resident at 41 Henderson Avenue, and I am the applicant on behalf of my client. Happy to answer any questions the panelists have.
Right. Well, we have someone who wants to speak in interest, so I think you should just briefly go over what this is about.
Sure. You want me to just elaborate a bit about the application?
Just about what you're doing.
I mean, it's pretty clear. So we're doing a 1-story addition at the back with an extended deck, and we are adding a dormer at the on the 3rd floor.
Okay. Any questions, panel? Okay. Diana Smykel.
Diana, you've been unmuted. Anna Smykel, you've been unmuted.
Up there? Can you call her? Yeah, just call her again.
When you are finished recording, you may hang up.
All right. All right, panel, we can't get a hold of this person. So let's go into committee and comments or a motion. Nimrod?
Yeah, I think what's being proposed here is very minor. The additions are quite small and there's only 2 variances. They are minor and I would move approval with no conditions.
Carl, you second that?
Yes.
All in favor? Ian? Carl? Okay. Carl, you favor, right?
I did, yes, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. You have your approval, sir. Number 13. 45 Glen Davis Crescent. The purpose of the application to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing 2-story additions to the front and east side, a front porch and a rear south porch. With this application, you have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from planning and urban forestry support from 18 form letters and 19 form letters, actually. Lynn Houston.
Good morning.
Morning. Can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Lynn Houston. I am at 49 Oakcrest Avenue, and I'm the agent for the homeowners.
Okay. Anything you want to say before we take it into committee?
Not really.
Okay. Thank you. Rod?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. We do have community planning condition that is variance number 7 being removed.
Yes, we've managed to work with planning to reduce to get to 94% of required soft landscaping at the front.
Okay, and also, do you have any comments on the urban forestry comments which recommend that variance number 2 and 5 be refused because it would result in the loss of a large tree?
Unfortunately, there's no way to do anything in this lot on this lot without harm to that tree. The homeowners would like to keep it if they could, but it's just not practical in terms of being able to build any addition that isn't a very odd shape.
So is there a way to pull up the site plan to see what exactly is causing the loss of that tree? What part of the addition?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we are willing to attempt to save it, but as I said, the addition overlaps too much of the space of the tree.
Is it just the porch that is creating that problem, or is it other parts of the addition?
Well, if you can zoom in on that, we have the circle of influence. It's a little bit down on the screen right now. It's the one at the bottom. Yeah. So yes, we just judged that it's not going to be practical to keep it. That any work within that circle is too likely to damage it, so it would be safer to remove.
So this lot is on a corner and has frontage on 2 streets, and
Yeah,
the
it's a very
loss
constrained lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a large tree, and so if it's removed, how does that impact then the views?
Well, there are a lot of other trees on this property, and the view is, you mean to the people across the street?
Well, I guess when you look at the street view, and you can see that tree is quite large, and if it was gone, how does that view then totally change?
Well, the area is very heavily treed.
Okay.
So yes, you would notice the difference for the first week, but it is also very heavily treed elsewhere
Okay.
on other properties. We were beside a park.
Right.
As I said, we would have liked to keep the tree, but in order to build an addition, it just trying to get around it proved very difficult.
Thank you. Carl, you had a question?
I thought I had a solution, but I don't. I just I missed something. No, I agree with the applicant. The only way actually you could save the tree would be, and it's a possibility, is to cut the porch off, but then there's a second floor addition over the top of it. You'd have to cut the second floor addition back too. Is there any possibility that the second story addition could extend, I'm not sure which direction we are, further out to, as you're looking at the drawing right now, to the right instead of to the bottom?
Well, we actually already cantilevering it 4 feet out, which is pretty much the extent of practical structure.
On the
And we
second
are
floor.
on the second floor. We're already cantilevering the second floor out 4 feet towards the right on this plan. And we're also trying to maintain a reasonable yard.
Yeah.
You know, for play space. That's why the porch, we tucked the porch in on to the south so that we wouldn't have to take up any of the side yard with a stoop and stairs.
I wonder if the Deputy Secretary Treasurer could clarify something to me then, because the forestry recommendation is to deny variance number 2 and variance number 5, but then there's an addendum to that says that if we choose to not go with that recommendation, they recommend 2 other conditions, which is 1 and 2, standard 1 and 2, which is a submission of a complete application to injure or remove city-owned tree, and number 2, an application to permit an injure or remove privately owned tree. What is the actual effect of those 2 conditions? Does that effectively, does that remove the tree or allow for the removal of the tree or not?
Through the chair, it means that the applicant would still have to go through the urban forestry process, and whatever urban forestry deems as appropriate and acceptable, they will render their decision regardless of the C of A decision.
So they've already indicated that they would block the removal of that tree. So this alternate suggested condition isn't really going to be very helpful.
Through the chair, that's correct. It would still default to urban forestry and an urban forestry application.
Carl, I think they've indicated that they're prepared to be persuaded that this is something that they should may allow. I don't think they've slammed the door.
Can I also raise the point that they also have some advisory comments? It seems that Kyle is right, is by imposing first condition 1 and 2, it's almost redundant, because the main thing is still under the condition of the approval by the urban forestry anyway. They said that committee adjustments decision, that's regardless whether we approve or not, they can deny the removal of this tree. So I do not think by imposing 1 and 2 will make make it easier for them. Make any sense actually. If you look at the advisory comments.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, let's go into committee and comments, or do we have? Yes, Nimrod?
This is a very odd-shaped lot in the way it's located and configured, so it does really constrain where you can build an addition. And unfortunately, in order to build that addition, that one tree will go. And so I do understand what the applicant is saying. I think that the variance is as amended, because I think one variance has been removed. That's variance number 7. I think the other variances really reflect the condition of the lot, and I would move approval subject to was there a condition from urban forestry on a second
No,
memo?
effectively, if you put a, Nimrod, as I understand it, with the clarification from the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, if you put any condition at all relative to urban forestry, the tree won't go. In which case the application won't proceed. So if what you want to do is approve the application, I don't think you can add a condition on forestry. That's the way I understand the advice we were given.
There's an F5 separate, there seems to be 2 conditions.
Mhm.
The F5 and then the condition about their refusal and the alternative. But I think we should say F5, subject to urban forestry F5, subject to urban forestry number 5, the conditions in the letter of 8.
Yes.
Right.
I would
So
second that. Yes.
Okay, I would add that. That's fine.
And your motion is with respect to the amended application.
That's correct.
Okay. You second, Yim?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Are you in favor, Carl?
No, I'm not, because F5 is denial. I mean, I don't think that's working. F5 is urban forestry requests denial of the Committee of Adjustment application due to the impacts to a bylaw protected tree. So there's 2 forestry recommendations here. The first one, if it is a chart and it indicates that their recommendation is F5, but then if you read 5, it's denial of the Committee of Adjustment application. If you look at the second one, it recommends denial of the second one recommends denial of variance number 2 and number 5. So no, I'm not in favor of what's on the floor right now, because I think it's misleading. I think basically we're saying the application's denied, and we're not, and yet we're saying it's approved, and that's confusing.
Yes, just hang on, Carl.
Through the chair, there's 2 sets of recommendations. So the second set of recommendations from Urban Forestry speaks to if, despite Urban Forestry's recommendation, the Committee of Adjustment panel approves the requested variances, Urban Forestry requests the variances be subject to the following conditions. And there's 2 conditions listed. So if you wish to approve the application, you could make it subject to those 2 subsequent conditions.
But not.
But in answer to my earlier question, you indicated that those 2 conditions basically place it back on urban forestry's, urban forestry's hands, and they've indicated that they want the tree to be preserved.
It does. It would still go back to Urban Forestry regardless.
Yeah, we don't have any say, but urban forestry condition number 5 is not something we want to put in the motion.
If you wish to approve the application, no.
Okay. So, sorry, Imrod, I misled you. I never understood why we get we get a proposal from urban forestry to put in F5, and then they give us a letter, and it all seems to be separate to me. So I think we eliminate 5, condition number 5 from your motion.
Right, and so do we just include then the urban forestry memo of March 13th? And
Yeah, I think
their
so.
condition? Okay.
Except, if I might, Nimrod, I think their alternate is actually forestry condition 1 and 2. Those are their standard forestry 1 and 2 conditions, I believe.
Right.
So you
Right.
could just as easily put those in.
It would be more comfortable, Carl, with just saying the conditions set out in the letter of such and such a date. Who knows what their interpretation is? Okay, so Nimrod, your motion is amended. Yim, are you seconding the amended motion? All right, all in favor? Carl, are you in favor now? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Okay. Next one is number 1468 Gilbert Avenue. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a complete second-story addition with balconies and a ground level deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have support from 364 Gilbert Avenue. Mr. Perez.
Hello, good afternoon. Good morning, Chairman and committee members. My name is Eddie Perez. I'm at 537 Rogers Road. We're the agent and the designers of this project. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay. Panel, any questions? Is it here?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of clarifications. Could you just speak to variance number 2 and variance number 3? I think, sorry, variance number 2, you're asking for a reduction in rear landscaping, soft landscaping. Is that an existing condition, or are you?
No, we're actually, sorry to interrupt. We're actually improving the condition. If you look at the survey, not ours, you'll see that there's a wood deck at the back and there's more concrete. We're actually adding more green. The only area that we're keeping that's not green is the area to enter the garage. So that's the only area now that's hard surface. The rest is all going to be proposed as green. But if you see that site plan there that they put up the survey, you can see there's a frame deck that's going to be changed into green. And so we're improving the green. And there's not much more that we can do to it because of the entry of the garage. There's no laneway at the rear. There's only access from the driveway.
Okay. Just to the size of the balcony, it's quite a substantial increase. It's almost double the size that's permitted. Could you just speak to that?
Well, it's not that, it's less than 100, it's 9 points, what do you, I have it 9.54. It's not that big of a, and we also talked to the neighbors and we put in a privacy fence on both sides of the deck. So it's not a big imposition. It's, and planning is usually okay with decks up to 10 square meters. That's why they didn't put any notes on it. They're okay with it. So we're under 10 square meters. And it's a very modest deck. It's not that big.
Okay.
And it's not infringing on any neighbors. On the other side of that way is a shingle place where they manufacture shingles and that. So there's not really any housing there.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you've already indicated on the side elevation that there's a privacy screen.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
All right. In committee, any comments or do we have? Yes, here.
Thank you, Chair. I think certainly the questions that I had in mind are satisfactorily answered. I don't see any issues with this particular application. It's fairly straightforward. I don't believe there are any any conditions attached. I'd be quite happy to move a motion to approve.
Okay. That motion, Carl?
Yeah, could I just clarify? So here there is in the added material a recommendation from Metrolinx. It's not so much a condition as advice. We should probably reference it.
Yes, certainly. That would be fine.
Okay, seconder, Carl? Second the motion. All right, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 15, 114 Sheridan Avenue. The purpose of the application is to alter the existing 3-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a rear second and third story addition. With this application, you have material submitted by the applicant and 2 form letters in support. Mr. Lipson.
You hear me?
Yes.
My name's Jack Lipson. I live at 137 Lisgar Street, and I'm speaking on behalf of my sister, who's the owner of 114 Sheridan Ave.
Okay. And what's your address, sir? Just give it to us.
Yeah, 137 Lisgar Street.
Okay, thank you. Okay, looks very straightforward. I don't think we need a explanation, presentation. Do you have anything you want to say before I take it into?
Nothing to add other than the 2 letters of support are from the 2 adjacent neighbors.
Thank you. Any questions, panel? Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unless my colleagues have any concerns, as the applicant indicated, this proposal has the support of the neighbors on either side. It's a very modest rear addition. It's got a comparable footprint to neighbors on one of the sides. I don't see there being any negative implications to the application. I'd like to move approval without condition.
Seconders are here. All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Number 16 is 68 Day Avenue. Purpose of the application is to construct a 1-story ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Mr. Rosenblatt?
I'm here speaking.
Yes, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Mel Rosenblatt, 53 Neptune Drive, Suite 203, Toronto, M6A 1X2.
Thank you. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say to the panel before we go into?
Well, I submitted a covering letter. I think it explained everything, and it's just a very simple minor variance that we're requesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, panel? Yes, Yim?
I would agree with that. I did a very straightforward application and no complication. I move for approval with no conditions.
All right, so I think, Carl, did you have a question?
No, I was going to move a motion as well. No, that's fine.
So will you second Yim's motion, Carl?
Yeah, sure.
All right, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, committee. Thank you.
Number 17, 86 Highland Avenue. Purpose of this application is to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling, a front covered porch, a rear ground floor deck, and an in-ground swimming pool. Also, the existing 1-story ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard will be maintained and unaltered. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have support from 87 Highland Avenue. We have opposition from properties on Highland and Binscarth. Mr. Dewson.
Yes, hello, Mr. Chairman. I'm William Dewson, architect and agent for the owners of 86 Highland Avenue, and my address is 174 Bedford Road, Toronto, M5R 2K9.
Okay, Mr. Dewson, we need a presentation because there's 3 in opposition.
Okay, if the slide deck, 14-page slide deck of support material could be brought up by the technician / clerk, that would be appreciated, please. Yes. Variance 1. The minimum side yard setback is 1.5 meters. The new building will be located 0.6 meters from the east side lot line. Referring to this slide, slide 1, note that the minimum required frontage on the north side, Highland Avenue and Binsgarth Road in this RD zone is 15 meters. On the south side of Binsgarth, it is 12 meters. The circled existing side yard conditions on this slide are all legal, non-conforming to those side yard setbacks bylaws. Referring to the next slide, slide 2. Sentence D of the side yard setback bylaw states that the required setback in RD zone with a minimum frontage of 15 meters is 1.5 meters. There is also a shifting setback clause that allows for a 0.3 meter shift from one side yard to the other. And in our case, one side yard setback could be 1.2 meters, and so long as the other is 1.8 meters. Our actual frontage is 9.08 meters. And note sentence B states that for a minimum required frontage of between 6 to 12 meters, the required side yard setback is 0.9 meters. If the shift clause were employed, one side yard could be reduced to 0.6 meters. Refer to slide 3, please. The two blue lines show the required side yard setbacks for an RDF frontage 15 meters, and using the shift clause yielding setbacks of 1.8 meters to the west, to the left, and 1.2 meters respectively. The red dotted line represents the extent of the existing house footprint. We are demolishing the existing house and building new. Note that the current setback of the existing house at its northeast corner, upper right-hand corner of the existing red dotted line is 0.34 meters. Our proposal is of 4.6 meters, improves the current condition by nearly double. Further, as mentioned, if the side yard setback were determined by actual frontage, the bylaw would require 0.9 meter setback, and employing the shift clause would get us to this 0.6 meters that we propose. If you could refer to slide 4. This is the existing condition, which is depicted in the image on the left. Our property is the left-hand image, which will be removed. The neighbor is to the right, the red brick house. The existing condition, the soffit projection of our proposal is 0.3 meters versus the existing 0.45 meters, which is shown in this slide. When added to the additional side yard proposed, the gap at the eaves will be increased by 0.45 meters and improve the overall access for maintenance. The right-hand side of this slide shows other legal non-conforming side yards for immediate neighbors on both Highland and Binsgarth. If we could go to the next slide, slide 5. This refers to variance 2, the minimum 50% of the side yard to be soft landscaping. We propose 37.7%. This slide, slide 5, this shows the existing rear yard conditions. Currently, soft landscaping is at 2%, excluding the pool, and at 27.9%, including the pool. If you could go to slide 6. The existing soft landscaping is shown in the green on the left-hand side of this slide, and our proposed is shown on the right. As you can see, we are significantly improving the soft landscaping existing condition. Also of note, we are fighting an uphill battle against percentages with the driveway easement and garage footprint eating up a large percentage of the allowable hardscape area in the calculations. Refer to slide 7. I have some detailed calculations here if the committee wants to delve a little deeper into the actual details of the calculations. We could go to the next slide, slide 8. This refers to variance 3, a bay window or other projection from a main wall of the building may encroach 0.6 meters from a window if the window projections do not occupy more than 30% of the width of the side main wall at each story. Referring to slide 8, we are requesting a variance to allow 33%. If you could go back up one, please. Yeah, thanks. This is to accommodate the articulation of the proposed west elevation as resolved through negotiations with the North Rosedale Ratepayers Residents Association and Heritage Preservation Services. Just a quick reference to slide 9, the next slide. This shows other approved variances similar to our side yard variance request. and our landscape variance request. Each of our requests are greater than the highlighted areas that you see on this slide. In conclusion, we have secured approvals from the North Rosedale Residents Association, Heritage Preservation Services, the Toronto Preservation Board, and the local community council, with the final city council approval pending. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Ben? Okay, Susan Fairbrother.
Susan, you've been unmuted.
I'm unmuted, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I wrote a letter on March 14th. I am objecting to the side yard variance.
Can we have, Ms. Fairbrother, can we have your name?
Oh, sorry, Susan
and your
Fairbrother.
address, please.
4 Binscarth Road, Toronto, Ontario, M4W1Y1.
And you're Susan Fairbrother?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. Please go ahead.
I wrote a letter on March 14th, which I submitted opposing the side yard variance. I understand that the new dwelling will move further to the east than it currently is. But I guess my question is, if the setback is 1.5 meters, then it should be at 1.5 meters. We did an addition in 2010, and at the side yard, where the addition is, we actually came in from where the existing house was, conforming to whatever the side yard variance bylaws were at the time. And with the new house and the extension out the back, it is going to significantly affect all of the sunlight we receive at the back of our house. So it will be better if it's at the 1.5 meter required setback.
Questions, panel? Right, thank you. Diane Burke.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Diane Burke, we're not able to get her onto the line.
Okay. Sheila Callum.
Yeah, Sheila, you've been unmuted.
This is Sheila Kellum from 84 Highland Avenue, N4W2A5.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Ms. Kellum.
My husband and I had written in, and I would like to, I'm sure you have the note in front of you. The first objection we have is to the hardscape versus softscape percentage in the backyard. I understand that as it exists now, it's minimal at best, but we are in a 2023, and my husband and I feel that for environmental health, for privacy, for aesthetics, that Mr. Doosan and his client could easily increase the percentage to the 50% minimum.
Is that the only comment?
No, my second objection is with regard to the projections of the bay windows on the west driveway side. Remember, this is a mutual drive. The houses are very close together. 86 Highland sits right on the right-of-way, all of it. And we feel that further encroachment on the right-of-way is unnecessary, extraneous, and really doesn't do anybody any good. We have enough privacy issues, and we feel that that is in no way helpful.
Does the bay window interfere with your mutual driveway?
We feel it is impactful visually and for privacy reasons, and it's just not necessary. I mean, if you look at where our house sits versus the right-of-way, we keep well within it. 86 Highland sits on it, and to come further on it, further encroaching, we just feel is asking too much on behalf of his client, Mr. Dewson's client. We just don't think it's necessary.
But you're able to get your car where it needs to go.
We are able to get a car, yes. I would hazard a guess that there could be problems if any heavy equipment has to get down that driveway. My house was built in, I believe, 1910 or 11, and I believe 86 was built at the same time. So these are narrow driveways we're talking about, and for any size of vehicle getting down there is always a worry unless you have a very tiny car. Yeah, I mean, it could happen. Somebody, depending upon the vehicle size, it could get hit.
Okay. Any questions, panel? Yes, Nimrod?
Yeah, I have a question. Does your home have a bay window onto that driveway?
My home that was built in 1910, I think completed in 1912. Yes, it has a very tiny bay window. Indeed, it does. That was built at that time. This is a new construction, and we feel that it's completely unnecessary.
And so with two bay windows, one on each of the homes, will vehicles be able to go through that driveway?
I believe it would be dependent upon the size and height of the vehicle. As it stands now, my little bay window gets hit by, snow plows, and any vehicle of a certain height has to be careful of bay windows. And it's not just that, it's a privacy issue. We just don't think it's necessary to further jut out into the right of way. Especially since the house is being rebuilt back right on the right of way.
All right, thank you.
I don't know what you mean by built on the right of way. You mean it's built to the edge of the right of way?
Correct.
Okay. And how high is your bay window?
My bay window, well, it's at the I'm not actually sure. It's low enough so that a vehicle of a certain size could hit it.
So is it
like a snowplow?
Is it on the second floor?
No, it's as you go up the stairs. So it's just on a if you walk up 2 steps and then you hit it. Yes,
It'd be on
correct.
a landing. Yeah.
Small
Okay.
landing, yes.
Yeah, and your neighbor's proposed bay window, is it also on a landing?
I would let Mr. Dewson speak to that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, panel? Okay, Mr. Dewson?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Address first Susan Fairbrother's concern about the side yard setback. If we could go to my slide 3 of the support deck. Well, actually, you can leave it at that site plan that you just had up. Sorry, probably I can explain everything here. If you could zoom in to the site plan, you can see that we are restricted on both sides. We have actually moved the house a foot or 0.3 meters off the east property line. And we've also moved inboard on the from the existing house on the west property line, so that in fact nothing. The house is not built up to the easement line on this on the west side, and on the east side. But it does. We're set back. If you look, we are 1.8 meters setback on the west, and we're asking for a variance to be 0.6 on the east side. I think we've done a very compromised position for both neighbors, pulling in both side yards from the existing condition. Also, if I could address Ms. Callum's concerns. First of all, the bay window, if you can look at our slide in the other slide deck 13. Yeah, that rendering, you can see that the bay window that projects on the second floor is well above the mutual driveway, and any car and SUV can easily pass through. You can also see the eaves line of Ms. Kellum's property is below the bay window projection on our proposal. The bay window on her side, 2 steps up on her landing, is essentially at first floor and some 6 feet off the driveway datum. So it does present more of a obstruction than our bay window. I'd also like to talk about through the negotiations of this process, we've removed a number of minor encroachments that were existing, such as the front yard curb that you see in this, the small concrete wall that's on our property. We've moved that back off of the encroachment. The existing, if you look at the existing survey, there's it was encroaching on that property. So we've cleaned up all of the encroachments that were there. Finally, the softscaping, if I could address the softscaping, I don't know really what more we can do. We've improved it from 2% softscaping up to 37% softscaping. And yeah, happy to answer any questions if you need some more clarity on any of the particular points.
Ron?
Yeah. Can you just explain variance number 1, which is for the east side yard setback? You mentioned that the zoning would allow you to go to 0.6 under certain conditions, and I'm not sure if you meet those conditions, why is variance 1 showing up?
Okay, if you go to slide 1. The zoning for our district requires the required frontage is 15 meters. If you see it, if you can zoom in for the north side of Binscarth and Highland. Under the bylaw, that says that a lot that has a required frontage of 15 meters, the required side yard setbacks are 0.5 meters. And you can shift that by 0.6. Our actual frontage is 9 meters. I only display in the second slide, the next slide, that for 9 meter, if this were zoned for what our actual frontage is, we would be under a bylaw sentence B that would be between 6 and 9 meters would allow us a 0.9 meter setback. That isn't the way the bylaw is written. That's the reason for minor variances. In our particular case, in this particular part of Rosedale, we have a series of side yards up and down the street that do not conform. And if they were to conform to that 1.5 meter setback, you would be left with, in our case, we'd have a 9 meter wide lot. We'd only be able to build within 6 meters. We're asked, the building width would be 6 meters. Here, we are have a setback of 1.8 meters and 0.6 on the other side, up to 2.4 meters, which I think is a reasonable compromise.
So essentially, many of the houses on the street do not comply with the required side yard setback of the zoning.
Yeah, take a look at slide 4 of that deck.
But could I elaborate on what Nimrod's asking you? But the bylaw still requires 1.5 meters on your property currently.
It requires 1.5, and we would be able to do it allows a shift of 0.3, so we could be at 1.2 meters on that side yard.
With the existing bylaw.
With the existing bylaw, we're asking basically for a variance to go to 0.6. Which is an improvement of 0.3 over the existing condition. The existing condition, if we could look at slide 4. Right. On the left is our condition, existing condition. We'd improve that by 0.3 meters. And if you look on the right-hand side of all of the non-conforming conditions on our street, these are just the conditions that are in have further remarkably reduced side yard setbacks to our condition that we're proposing. They're narrow lots on this in a zoning that requires a 15-meter lot, but these are all lots that are less than 15 meters wide. If we don't allow these variances, then the buildable area on the lot is, too mean to really construct a viable house.
And I'm looking at the survey that you've provided, and I noticed that to the house on your right, that their side yard setback is down to as low as 0.85.
Yeah, they don't conform either. They're a little non-conforming, I guess is how it would be termed. I'd like to add to this too. We've gone through, there's a whole set, you may be aware of conservation guidelines, very strict guidelines to building anything in Rosedale, particularly graded buildings. But when it's an ungraded building, which is this building, we've been approved to be able to deconstruct and reconstruct a new building. We've gone through extensive application procedures with the Toronto Preservation Board and Heritage Preservation Services and the board of the Residents Association to follow the guidelines and go through various things like street setback, proportions of the building, height of the building, height of the existing entrance level, all to maintain the integrity of the heritage district. all of which has been through extensive negotiations, all based on this 2 meter, this 0.6 side yard setback. If we are denied this setback or this variance, all of a sudden it changes the whole proportion of the width of the house and requires a whole rework through an extensive procedure that we've gone through with the various heritage preservation boards. I'll also note that through that, if you look at that survey that we're looking at here, the existing property, the front yard setback has been encroached, and we are pulling the existing, the proposed building back to be in line with our neighbor who has this complaint. Number 4, we are pulling back the front facade of our building to be in alignment with hers as requested by the Heritage Preservation Services, North Rosedale Ratepayers Association, Toronto Preservation Board. So we've complied with all of these areas to arrive at a solution that has been negotiated over the past 6 months. So it's, yeah, it's, I'd like to add that.
Thanks.
Here. Can't hear you. You're muted, Sahir.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was muted. Just a couple of quick points. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for the presentation materials. It certainly makes it a lot easier for me to understand what it is you're doing. A couple of comments. One with regard to the side yard setbacks from your presentation materials. It's clear that your side yard setbacks are an improvement over what's existing at the moment. I was particularly also concerned about the soft landscaping, and from what I can see, and if you please assist me in understanding this, that your swimming pool, the existing swimming pool, will be removed, and presumably you're going to have a much smaller pool in that space, and therefore have greater amounts of soft landscaping. Is that correct from what I see?
Yes, that's correct. What you see in this slide, the slide on the left is existing. The only green vegetative landscaping is that small strip along the fence to the west. What you see in green on the slide to the right is our new softscaping area. As you can also see, the pool is vastly reduced. The brick garage is existing and to remain. We're not changing footprint whatsoever, height either. It remains in its current location. We are reducing the existing deck significantly. But I would say that, and the deck conforms to all height, side yard area bylaws. You know what, I think, I think if the whole yard was green, then you'd probably make your 50%.
If I may just add to the question there as well. So your proposed stone patio, would that be in any way permeable, the stone patio, so that it would just improve percolation?
That patio is at the level of the ground floor, finished floor, so it's a little raised. At this point, no, that patios wouldn't be considered permeable.
I see. Okay. Well, in general, I think this is a proposal that I certainly feel comfortable supporting.
I have a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This drawing shows. I think I thought maybe the swimming pool is considered to be soft landscaping.
Yes, so, that's why I put. Yes, it is.
Yeah, That's what I was told in some previous applications. So will that change your variance number 2 actually should be 39% instead of the 37.7?
Yes, that is correct.
I think it makes it better, right? You increase the percentage.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah. So I'm also agreeing with Sahi. I think this is comfortable for me to support it, and I think that the setback, the north side setback or the east side setback, is actually a great improvement of the existing condition. And with the bay window projection, if you really look at both the 3D rendering and also the front elevations, it is almost like 12 feet above the driveway. So that's very high, and it's not projecting very big. So I don't have problem with the bay window projecting onto the driveway. Yeah. So I'm also in support of this application with the change of variance number 2 to 39%.
And how many square meters?
77.71.
Okay, thank you, sir. Carl, did you have a further question?
Yes, I don't know if I was studying another drawing, so I don't know if it was raised that the applicant in the added material has removed what was a contentious pad in the front lawn, where he was going to store garbage containers and other things, and he's relocated those into the backyard. I don't know if that was raised, but it was something that someone had objected to, and he's made that change as well. My comment is on the side yard, because I think side yards are something that we don't look at seriously enough. I think in this particular case, the reduced side yard on one side makes sense. And it's because the side yard on the other side is larger. What I have trouble with in many of these applications is when you've got a reduced side yard on both sides and you've got this tiny sliver of space, which makes it almost impossible to move material from the street to the backyard, in which case things like garbage containers have to sit in the front yard, and that I think is problematic. I think in this particular case, as the applicant has indicated, he's trying to gain some space so that he can create a viable house. He's got a minor side yard on the, I guess it's east side, but a larger one on the west side, which does allow for movement of materials from the front to the back. So on that basis, I think what is before us is reasonable. And I did want to clarify that that pad has been moved from the front yard, because I do know that that was a concern from some of the people that wrote in.
Do we have a motion? Yes, Yim?
I can move a motion with the variance number 2 amended to 39%, 77.71 square meter. And also I would like to tie it to the revised site plan with showing the garbage container in a different location. There's no other conditions that just tied to the revised site plans. Yeah.
All right. Did I hear you second that motion?
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Carl? Yes. Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. And thanks for your work that you do for all of us. It's much appreciated.
Thank you. Number 1849, Metcalf Street. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing 3-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a new covered front porch and stairs. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and a report from Heritage Planning. Carolyn Spiegelski.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. So my name is Caroline Spiegelski. I'm the applicant's agent and her architect. I'm also her neighbor at 51 Metcalf Street, and the application question is 49 Metcalf Street. So this application is for a minor variance that relates to the amount of landscaping required on a lot with semi-detached house. The bylaw calls for a minimum of 75% of required front yard to be soft landscaping. The proposed is actually only 7%, but the existing condition is 0%. And this is because the property line is actually only 0.5 meter from the house. So the proposed scheme seeks to demolish the existing larger covered porch. The new covered porch will be smaller and more in keeping with the historic architectural character of the historic Metcalf Street. We're also coordinating my own application for 51 Metcalf Street so that the character of the two semi-detached units will look similar. So in fact, while we don't comply, the existing condition is actually worse than what we're proposing. So we're more in character with the street, and we're also increasing the landscaping, soft landscaping, marginally on the city side. And I think that pretty much covers it. If there's any questions, happy to answer them. Over to you.
Questions, panel? Okay, let's go on to committee comments.
Through the
Nimrod?
chair, sorry, it appears that there's a speaker on the line for this application.
It's the owner, isn't it?
I believe it's the owner, Catherine, who's also on the line. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just clarifying.
Hey, Nimrod?
Yeah, there's only one variance before us, and it's actually improving the existing condition. I would move approval of the variance with no conditions. Oh, I believe there's heritage planning conditions.
Pardon? What condition? Heritage planning. So here you second the motion.
Yes.
All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Number 1934 Roxboro Street. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a 2-story side east addition, also to construct a new 1-story ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, a correspondence and concern or interest from 30 Roxboro, and support from 2 form letters in support for 38 and 67 Roxboro Street. Mahir Manios.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm Mahir Manios. I'm the agent for the owner, number 1 Teakwood Grove, Toronto, M3B 2H9.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation from you. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
I won't take long, but if staff could be kind enough to put up the supporting material. Page 3 is a marked up site plan that we had submitted a few days ago. It shows, it gives a better idea of what we're proposing to do here. The existing house is over 20 meters deep. We're proposing to demolish the rear over 3 meters of the existing house, which is toned on the side plan, and then put the 2-story addition on the side of the house. This would bring the depth of the house to compliance, less than 17 meters. It's set back more than 1.2 meter from the east property line versus the required 0.9 meter. We had argued with zoning that actually we don't need the variance for FSI because we're smaller than the existing house. We're proposing 67%, whereas the existing house is almost at 69%. There's a provision in the bylaw to that effect, but the zoning examiner didn't see it fit to use that provision. Additionally, the ancillary structure, which is a detached garage at the back, also toned on the side plan. It shows the existing garage there, which we're proposing to demolish and rebuild a new one. The new garage is actually about 6 square feet smaller than the existing one. So this is more to shift it, put it more rectangular on the property, plus part of the garage would have to be demolished in order to get access for construction, given 3 large trees on the front, 1 in front of the property and 2 in front of the 2 neighboring properties. The zoning examiner, same thing here, is typically they would point out one variance. For some reason, they went through the whole bylaw and picked every possible variance. So in the past, in doing our research, it's been one of the variances are noted, but for some reason, they've elected to point all three of them here. But it's actually smaller than the existing one that's there today. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay, we're going to committee. Comments, or do we have them? Nimrod?
Yeah, I think that the variances are minor in nature, and the new triple car garage is really a replacement of what's currently there today. I would move approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Seconder, Sahir, all in favor? Yim? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Number 20, 1982 Bloor Street West. Purpose of the application is to permit a learning center use children's cooking school within the 2-story building. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant and a report from Development Coordinator, Toronto Transit Commission. Mr. Grossi.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning. Can we have your name and address, please?
Of course, Adam Grossi, 5451 Highway 7, City of Vaughan.
I think we need presentation from you, sir. Do you have anything you want to add before I go into committee?
Only that commercial uses have existed in this particular space within the building for a number of decades. The previous tenant was a pub. They vacated recently, and in order to fill the space, we were required to submit the application to permit the children's cooking school, which, as you can probably imagine, isn't a typical use sort of found in a bylaw.
How old are the children?
I believe they range from about 5 up into teenage years.
We missed the boat. We should have trained our children to cook.
I can't disagree.
Okay. Panel, do you have any questions? Yes, Yim.
No question. I think it's an excellent idea. I have never heard of a cooking school for 5-year-old, but I think they can be good chefs. Yeah, I move for approval with no conditions.
Carl?
I have a question before we vote. If the cooking school tenant leaves, what are you permitted in the building? Do you if you want to replace it, do you have to get another cooking school, or can you have any learning center use? I'm not clear on. It seems to be a very, very narrow definition.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee member. What's interesting about this site is that non-residential uses have existed for, as I said, a number of decades. When the comprehensive zoning bylaw came into effect, it never actually recognized the fact that this was, for all intents and purposes, a mixed-use building. My understanding of it, my read of the bylaw, save and except for very narrow non-residential uses that are permitted as of right under the residential zone, we would have to go back to committee for effectively any other commercial use.
So you have to keep this tenancy, or you have to come back here if you wanted another non-residential use?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee member, that is the case. I will say that our tenant has signed a lease, and we hope to keep them as long-standing tenants.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a terrific use. It's unfortunate that it's such a narrow use, but thank you for the answer.
Yim?
Yes, I'll make the same motion, but also add a comment. I think that if it is a conforming use, any kind of change in the future, you have to go through committee adjustment anyway. Yeah. So I will move for approval.
Without conditions.
The TTC conditions, yeah,
Is that a condition or just advisory?
they actually,
Mr. Chairman.
It does say in the fourth paragraph, conditions, requests that the following conditions be included.
They are conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
So, okay, do you second the motion now that has been amended, Sahir?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's now 12:40. And that's the end of our morning list. I'm back at 2.